Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's review. It's a retrospective. It's for Underworld. Yep, you remember? Underworld, Kate Beckinsale. Old film, right? But I caught it again on Netflix and I thought, hell, this really is worth another look. For most people, it's worth an appreciation post at the very least. So, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm talking full spoilers. I don't understand why we need to do spoiler warnings for movies that are, nearly 20 years old now. You know, this came out in 2003. Now, it features Kate Beckinsale, Michael Sheen, Scott Speedman, and Bill Nighy, to name a few. It's the werewolf versus vampire war, or the Lycans, as they're known. And this film absolutely holds up. I put it on simply because I wanted something to watch as a bit of background noise whilst I sort of messed about on my phone and was doing some other things. And, you know, and I was just a bit busy. I thought, I've seen it before. I'll do some other things. And then I stopped doing the other things and I was engrossed. This film was actually very, very well made. Especially even for the time. For a few reasons, cinematography wise, very, very well made. The framing of shots, quite expertly done, actually. Very competently done. No weird Dutch angles, no strange, I'm trying to be an auteur. Just worked. On a technical level, if you're using the rule of thirds, this film does everything very nicely. Very, very, very nicely. Now, just as an FYI, this film isn't perfect. Okay? There are some things which they do to look cool that are actually dumb. Remember that scene from the trailer where the Lycans are balling down the hallway? Holy shit, they're so close. And actually, if you look at the hallway, it's not a very long hallway. So they must be going very slow, the Lycans. But Kate Beckinsale's there, she gets her guns out, she's killed a few of them, but there's some holding on, and you think, oh, she can't have many bullets left. She's going to get got. So what does she do? Oh, you remember it from the trailer? She all around herself and drops down. Makes for a really cool scene and shot. But the amount of bullets, and again, I rewound it and watched it last night. The amount of bullets she used, if you couldn't have killed that one Lycan that was coming after you, you got problems, love. Now, again, it made for a really cool shot. So these are those elements of films that we go, that's really stupid, but it worked, so I'm going to overlook it. And you should absolutely overlook quite a lot of the slightly dumb stuff in this movie, because on a whole it's really, really good. Kate Beckinsale in tight latex with corsets, yeah, I'll watch that all day every day. I was interested when we zoom in on the opening shot and we see Kate Beckinsale to what looked like a CGI cape. It looked very CGI, but I don't remember it being CGI. So I think for the time it was very good, and if it's not CGI, it's lit very inappropriately. But again, I overlook it. Because then what happens? Well, we see her scoping some things out. Oh, and then she just drops down onto the floor. Very, very good. All of the action in this series, this movie, we'll just talk about this one movie. We'll get to the other films. Mark my words. If this video does okay, we'll get to the other films. But the action was actually really well done. It's not gratuitous. It's not too much. There's enough wide angle shots of the action where we know what's going on. A lot of it is gunplay, you know, we're using guns as opposed to hand-to-hand combat, and I appreciated a lot of that, and I think it actually added to the fact that, yeah, this is not our typical werewolf vampire film. You know, they are able to do these kind of things. And undoubtedly there was a sort of an element of people trying to recreate the sort of Gothic nature of The Crow, The Matrix, Dark City. All around that. I mean, it's not the same time, but we can see some of the inspiration from these various films coming through into this. I mean, the train scene, for instance, I would say, yeah, somewhat Matrixy, I guess. But it was a very, very good, very well made. I think the story between the Lycans and the vampires all being, in this movie anyway, being centered on Victor murdering his own daughter, Sonia, because she dared lay with a dirty werewolf, a dirty Lycan. Lucian played very well, very, very well played. And I had to look it up because I saw him, Michael Sheen, and I was like, I don't remember that being Michael Sheen. I'm going to have to look this up. So I did, and I was like, God damn, yeah, no, he played Lucian. Great, great. This came at an era where CGI started to take over, and they were like, we're just going to CGI everything. Everything. And you know what? They didn't in this movie. Or it didn't look like they did. That Lycan transformation scene that we see, in full bloom, we see a Lycan transformation scene from man to beast. Amazing. I tweeted this out, and I used that GIF because that absolutely holds up. What an amazing blend of what I presume is stop motion practical effects with some CGI. I don't know. I'd have to Google it. But my God, did it work. The shots of the Lycans, because they knew that they couldn't show them off fully, right? They showed them off fully in certain scenes, bits and pieces. But we couldn't show them do too much because the film budget, the technology wouldn't have accounted for it. It would have made it look very dumb. I think they held back very, very well. And this film was directed by Len Wiseman, right? I think he did a very, very good job of knowing where to put the budgets. The costume works very, very well. It's typical. It's what we expect. You know, it's that sort of decadent romanticism of vampirism, I guess. But equally so, it crosses over into the Lycans. A little bit more feral, a little bit dirtier. They live in the sewers. What do you expect? But I think that everything was budgeted appropriately. And they put everything together to culminate in a film that I can watch 20 years later and go, you know what? I can wholeheartedly recommend that to people who have not seen it. Soundtrack was really good too. Really, really good. Really, really, really good. Now the integral story, I guess the sort of romance that is behind it all, the blending of the two species, immortals, the greater lore, which is then subsequently expanded on further down the line, and we'll get to those sequels again if this video does well. I like the first stuff that they start to introduce. I like the mechanisms. Like, I watched that floor opening scene where Celine opens the floor to awaken Victor, and it all starts to move and it all opens. Very well made. So good. Intricate mechanisms. Love it. I love that in a film. Indiana Jones, intricate mechanisms. I love it. I absolutely adore that kind of stuff. So as a retrospective review, I mean, retrospectives can be basically as in-depth as you want. You know, we could get into the script details, written by, stories actually by quite a few people. Danny McBride being one of them. Not that Danny McBride, but he's the predominant end credit as the writer on this film. But additional are, anyway, Len Wiseman and Kevin Grievous. Don't know how to say his name. Don't care. But the predominant writer credit comes to us as Danny McBride. I can get as in-depth as you want into a retrospective, but wholeheartedly, realistically, it's does it hold up? What does it make you feel? Soundtrack was really good in this. Bloody, they did well with the soundtrack. Not gratuitous, mind you. I remember Queen of the Damned. That was a very gratuitous soundtrack. I mean, it was important to the film and the story, but it was a bit gratuitous after a while. I sort of ended up having enough of it. And I think all too common do vampire and werewolf films focus too much on the soundtrack. They're like, this will, yeah, all the goths will like this, yeah. It's like, yeah, mate. The aesthetic's important too. And they nailed that. Bill Nighy playing Victor, great. Great. Interesting, does come at that time where heads chopping off and falling off. That was pretty common around that time. I remember Equilibrium did exactly the same bloody thing. It's very funny. Is when we look back at these films and there's these little common threads running through them all. Can we do that with CGI? Yeah, we'll do that. I like this film a lot. Absolutely holds up. Strong recommendation. As a werewolf film, strong. As a vampire film, strong. As anyone who just wants to look at Kate Beckinsale and be a bit of a pervert, strong recommendation. Anyway, ladies and gents, let me know what you think down below. Cheers, guys. Hope you enjoyed this quick little retrospective. Take care. Also, ladies and gentlemen, consider checking out my Teespring store. Supporting the channel via this way does go a long way. But also, not only that, you do get to wear some awesome merch. These are one-of-a-kind designs designed for me by my graphic designer. We, of course, have our Clown World line, which is in mugs, hoodies, t-shirts. We've got Space Jeebus. And then for something a little bit different, we, of course, have right down at the bottom, right here, we have our Pulsar GTIR. Also, ladies and gentlemen, consider checking out and supporting my second channel, which is Car Nonsense. This is a vlog and car channel. You can find links to this in the description box, along with my Teespring. Please do consider supporting.